Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about a potential major upcoming snowstorm for the day on Saturday into Sunday, actually. Now, before I get started with this video, though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. We also have a new join button that I highly recommend clicking and at least looking at those tiers, see what you would be getting. You can check that out right next to the subscribe button, and you get some pretty awesome perks by doing that. Anyway, for today's comment of the day, I want to know, do you think this snowstorm is going to be major or not? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now, we're taking a look at that European model, and as you can see, we have a very, very cold pattern. Those blue lines are indicating some colder temperatures up there, and that's why a lot of this snow is going to be happening kind of further south than it typically would. So we have a very nice pattern for some snowfall. Let's take this to about Saturday afternoon when this is really going to get rolling here. There's two pieces of energy. You can see one up there for kind of the plains and then one down there for the southeast. These could interact to a certain extent, so we're going to be watching that quite closely. Let's take this to about 7 p.m. there on Saturday, and this is when you can really see this becoming kind of a southern slider, nor'easter hybrid here. We can see that there is some moderate to heavy snowfall going on for northern Georgia, northern and western South Carolina there, and then southern regions there in mountainous North Carolina, and also kind of the more central North Carolina regions there. There could be mixing to some extent. We're going to be taking a look at that on some of our higher resolution models a little bit later on, but this is looking like a good chance for snowfall for you guys. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on towards a little bit later in that evening into the night, and we're going to just move this on towards where it's going to enter up into the mid-Atlantic and potentially even into southern New England. All of that is coming up in just a moment. So this frame is probably by about 11 p.m. there on Saturday, and as you can see, some of that snowfall is extending well into the western two-thirds of North Carolina there, even southern Virginia, especially the western regions there. There is some moderate to heavy snowfall coming down. I do suspect that 6 to 10 inches of snow is possible there in kind of the more intense bands, and if it's a little bit more heavy than what I'm anticipating, we could see 10 to 15 even for certain regions. Let's move this on towards about 1 a.m. here, and as you can see, a lot of regions in south central Virginia, including like Lake Gaston, areas like that, maybe even Charlottesville and Richmond getting in on some of that, are seeing snowfall by this point, potentially even Raleigh and Durham as well. We still see some of Georgia, some of South Carolina, and even then some of Tennessee as well seeing some snowfall, but there is some mixing going on, like I said, on the more southern regions. The higher resolution models will be a lot better at telling us what's going to happen with all of that. Let's take this to about, I would say, approximately 6 or 7 a.m. there on Sunday, February 7th. I'm so used to saying January. And as you can see, we see still some moderate to heavy snowfall going on for many, many regions. This has now moved up into D.C., the Delmarva, New Jersey, even, and maybe even southeastern Pennsylvania as well. What we're going to do is we're going to move on towards where this could move in up into the northeastern United States, debatably according to which model you take a look at. So we'll take a look at that in just a moment. So this is by about maybe 1 p.m. there on Sunday, February 7th. As you can see, moderate to heavy snowfall basically from Richmond up through the Delmarva, New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, D.C. getting in on some of that, New York City, and then southern New England, like I said. Look at how close that low pressure center is to the East Coast. Some of the models have this much further, and that's why some of them don't have that northeast snowfall. For how close we are to this storm, there's some major disagreement we're dealing with here. My confidence is not going to be as high as it typically would within this range, but maybe by tomorrow we will see some agreement that'll increase my confidence there. Let's take this to about 3 or 4 p.m. there on Sunday, and as you can see, this becomes a little bit more of an immediate coast snowstorm. We see Boston, New York City, Providence there as well, portions of New Jersey, and even down into the Delmarva. But this is quickly coming to an end by the time we reach about 11 p.m. there on Sunday, where it's going to pretty much close out by that point. Let's move on to one of those higher resolution models here, and this is our NAM 3KM model, one of the highest resolution models we have available to us. And as you can see, this one's a little bit further north than that European model, actually. We do see that mostly just northern Georgia and portions of North Carolina and South Carolina are getting snowfall by that point. Let's take this to about, I would say, 12 a.m. there on Sunday. So starting out Super Bowl Sunday. We're going to have some snowfall going on there for the Smoky Mountains in through North Carolina. Still a little bit of Georgia there, and then even up in through Virginia. But take a look at all of those yellows. That's where this model is picking up on some sleet. A lot of times this model picks up on sleet, other models don't, and then what ends up happening is there is some sleet once that one model is showing it. So I do think there will be some mixing issues on the very immediate eastern edge of this storm and southern edge there as well. I think that's a very, very realistic solution, with the more mountainous regions of North Carolina, the more hilly regions of Virginia as well, getting most of that heavy snowfall with no mixing issues. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on towards where this snowstorm is going to become even more major, and actually what we're going to see is this model has it as the most major out of any of them so far. So this is by about 5 a.m. there on Sunday, February 7th. We can see mostly Virginia by this point up through Maryland and the Delmarva seeing that heavier snowfall. Lots and lots of mixing going on for eastern Virginia, central North Carolina, and even southern regions of the Delmarva, mostly the eastern shore of Virginia there, seeing those sleet issues. Let's just zoom it in towards the mid-Atlantic, and as you can see, a 995 millibar low pressure center just offshore of the Delmarva, and that is what is causing that sleet. We see some warmer air in the middle and upper layers there because that low pressure center is so close. We see this time and time again with snowstorms that are this close to the coast. Very, very common with this more heavy snowfall, as you can see, for northern Virginia, Maryland, DC, Delaware, and even in through southern Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey. Now, this does eventually move a little bit further north, and as you can see, New York City and a lot of southern New England gets involved a lot. Let's take this to about 1 p.m. on Sunday there, and you can see even more of that snowfall is making its way up into New England. Let's just take a look at that RGEM model as well. This one's a little bit lower resolution, but we can see this one starts out a bit further south than that 3 km NAM. So you can tell that there is some major disagreement here. Out many regions in Georgia seeing some of that snowfall there. And now as we move on towards about, I would say, probably about 2 or 3 a.m. there on Sunday, February 7th, you can see a lot of North Carolina, South Carolina, and up through Virginia. Also Tennessee, where these models have been trending at some snowfall there for the more central regions of Tennessee. You can tell that this model also has those sleet issues down there for Georgia and South Carolina, so I think that's the more realistic solution here. This does eventually move up into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, just like the other models. Here, as you can see, mostly Virginia, the Delmarva, DC, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania as well. They're by about 1 p.m. there on Sunday. Let's move this towards about 3 or 4 p.m. there on Sunday, and as you can see, this model keeps it a lot further south from New England, mostly just New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, Delaware, Maryland, and even Virginia there getting that snowfall. Not as much for New England, and as you can see, by the time we're reaching later on Sunday, pretty much just skirts off the coast of New England innocently, with very, very limited amounts of snowfall coming down by the time we reach the end of that. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to move on, and we're going to take a look at the total snowfall maps according to all of these models in just a moment. All right, now here we are taking a look at that total snowfall according to most of these models. Here's that European model first off, and this one's not so major. I would say it's pretty major for North Carolina and Virginia standards, but as you move up towards the Northeast, not so much anymore. This is one of the more limited snowfall models here, as you can see, but as we start out in the grays, I just want you to know that's where we're at about a dusting, if anything, and then in the blues, that's where we're at about 1 inch to maybe 6 inches of snow there. In the purples, that's where you're at about 6 to 10. So you can see in the heaviest band from North Carolina up through portions of Virginia, even into the Delmarva a little bit there, you can see there is a 6 to 10 inch band, and probably up through Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and portions of Cape Cod as well, getting that band of 6 inches plus, as you can see as well, according to this model. Let's take it to the GFS model, which we didn't even take a look at earlier. As you can see, this is in great agreement that there will be snowfall for regions, and it does have the more limited amounts as well. As we move on to the Canadian model, this is the most limited model out of all of them as far as the snowfall goes. This one doesn't even really have 6 to 10 inches of snow, and it keeps it much, much further south than the rest of the models. As we move on to the NAM 12 km model, you can tell that this one is the most major out of any of them. And as you can see, it does have a band of even 10 inches plus there, and those pinks picking up portions of North Carolina, Virginia, into the Delmarva. That's where we're looking at 10 inches plus according to this model, right over Richmond, Virginia. So there's some major disagreement going on. Here's that RGEM model, and this one's somewhat in between. We do have some 6 inch plus regions there for Georgia, South Carolina, which would certainly be major for those regions. Up through Virginia, Maryland, and the Delmarva, 6 inches plus, which is kind of like a moderate snowfall for those regions. A pretty big snowstorm, but nothing crazy by any means. But definitely for Georgia and South Carolina, that would be insane. Here is that NAM 3 km model, which is that model that was the highest resolution one we even took a look at earlier. And as you can see, this one does have those 6 to 10 inch amounts in the purples, and even the 10 inches plus going all the way from Virginia through Maryland, through DC, through the Delmarva, through New Jersey, into New York City, Long Island, and even southern New England. And the crazy thing about this is this doesn't even reach the end of the storm. This only reaches till about 1 p.m. there on Sunday. So as we get more runs of this model, we could start to see more and more and more snowfall up there for the Northeast on this one. So we're going to want to watch this closely. For my confidence tab, I'm at a surprisingly low 3 out of 6, considering we're only about a day away from this one starting. I'm going to need to update this tomorrow, where hopefully I will be moved up to at least a 5 or 6 and be able to give you guys an actual snowfall forecast. But for now, there's so much disagreement on the models, we're going to want to take this with a massive grain of salt, and it's not even worth trying to make a forecast on because there is so much disagreement. Anyway, for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, how long do you think that polar vortex is going to last? And Jamie Lee said for 1 or 2 weeks, and I really agree. I think 1 week is pretty much the minimum there, about 7 or 8 days, but this could last upwards of about 10 to 14 days, which would obviously be a very major cool down for sure, and it would probably put our February as a very, very cold month regardless of what happens afterwards. Anyway, for our patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons: Sebastian Tao, John Benbenick, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Alan Belemo, Adam S., Larry LePan, Donna Carnes, Cameron Marshall, Aiden Mattis, alongside our diamond patrons: Bill Roberts, Alan Sherry, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Codalessa, Michael Buell, Terry Curtis, Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Kellen Manhart, It's Jay, Cindy Klein, Alicia Davis, Mark J., Luke Falago, and Gary's and John Quilisi. If you would like to be on this Patreon end screen of the day, you can do so by joining our very exciting Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comment down below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social media. I will see you guys in the next video.